All right, so let's say that your app is extremely popular and you're starting to see, let's go over to the overview screen. You're starting to see that you're reaching the capacity in terms of like response time is starting to slow down and you're starting to basically feel like you're filling out this app service plan. What are your options for scaling a web app? Now, you do have two options for scaling. They're called scale up and scale out, and I'll try to explain them here. So scaling up an app service plan basically means moving to the next larger plan or to a larger plan. So we are currently running on the B1 plan, as you remember from a few videos ago, and we can simply just move to the B2 plan and say apply, and our app is going to be basically moved over to our code running on a B2 plan. This is going to be seamless for end users. There might be a little pause, but basically traffic will be pointing to one service at a moment, and then suddenly it'll point to a different one, and users won't notice. So this is one way of scaling, is to basically, I'm going to hit apply. So it's going to create me a B2 app service plan, move my web apps over, and then it's going to redirect the traffic, and bing, bang, boom, I'm running on twice the powerful app service plan as I was previously. So that's one way of scaling. Now you will see when we go from 100, 200, 400 ACUs, well, the largest one is 800 on the premium P3 V2 plan. So there's an upward limit to the size that we can scale up to, okay? Now, the other option, which is probably more flexible, is the scaling out. So if we go into scale out, in the basic plan, the only option you have is what's called manual scaling. So we have just hit apply to move to the B2 plan, which is 200 ACU. And we can now decide that we can move up to 2 instances. So we can basically double the number of processes that are running to support our web apps. So remember, this is an app service plan. You could have multiple web apps running on it. If you scale this out, you're basically creating a second app service plan, and the apps are being duplicated as well. Azure automatically puts a load balancer in front of this as well. So as soon as I say move me to 2 instances, then I'm going to have 2 B2 instances running with a load balancer, and our performance is to double. Under the basic plan for manual scaling, the largest number of instances you can have is 3. Now this was set on the, let's go back to, I'm going to discard this, go back to scale up, and we can see under B2, under manual scale features, up to 3 instances. So that was set by choosing this B2 plan. Now, if we were to move to a standard S1 plan, so go from being B to S, now suddenly we can go up to 10 instances. So that was the other option. If instead of going B1 to B2, we could have gone to B1 to S1, and we could have gone up to 10 instances. Now, the other thing about standard and premium plans is it does support auto scaling. Auto scaling allows you to monitor the resource utilization of your app service, and if it starts to get too busy, add another instance, and then when it slows down, remove that instance. So I'm going to check on this. My app service plan is updated. Actually, I can go to, let's just go back to overview screen. We can see that we're running on the B2 plan in the overview screen. So I'm going to scale up to an S1 plan. Let me get an S2 plan. Feeling good today. So I'm going to go from B2 to S2. The plan was updated successfully. If I go to the overview screen, we can see it running, and we can see that we're on an S2 plan. Now when I go down to scale out, I have the manual option, but I also have an auto scale option. Now auto scaling, again, is based on a metric usually. And so if we go down to the rules here, we're going to have to add some scaling rules. So let's say we want when the CPU percentage is greater than 70%. I'm going to put this at 75%. So when the CPU utilization averages 75% for 10-minute period, then I want to increase the instance count by 1. And I'm going to wait 5 minutes before doing that again. So the cooldown is basically not so that you don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in less than a minute. Okay, so there's a 5-minute wait to add additional instances. Now, whenever you have a scale up, you're probably going to want a scale down because this is sort of a one-way ratchet. So let's do a scale down as well. So now we're going to say when CPU utilization is less than 20%, 20% over a 10-minute period, I want to decrease the count by 1. So this is the scale down option. So I have a scale out and a scale in for this rule. And we can say, remember, we have on a standard plan up to 10 instances. And so let's say we want the default to be 3 and we want it to go between 1 and 5. And so I can say, if I save this, we're going to end up with 3 instances and it'll go down to 2 and then go down to 1. I'm going to put that to 6. So the way you can tell the number of instances that are running are on the scale out screen. It'll tell you the current state. It has 3 instances here. I can actually go to the overview screen and I can see, oh, it's now down to 2. So remember, we have an auto scaling plan that when every 5 minutes will evaluate the UCP utilization and it should subtract 1. So if I waited 5 additional minutes, this S2 will go back down to 1 instance. And if I go back down to scale out, we can see the 3 became a 2. So this rule is basically going to kick in and draw the instances back down to 1. So it's working the way that we intended. This basically shows us that you can use auto scaling on standard and above, and this is the other way of scaling compared to just moving to a bigger service plan.